Okay.
Go to trial on December 2nd, so.
Everybody ready?
About it. Yeah, good to go.
We'll call the meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Abington Zoning Board of Appeals, October 14th, 2021, 7 o'clock p.m. First on the agenda is old and new business, and that is the approval of minutes. And I think there's been a little mix-up in what we're approving tonight. The only ones I think we're going to be able to approve tonight are the August 5th ones for the executive session. Tony has the June 10th ones that she'll supply to us, the July 8th ones that she'll supply to us, the August 5th open session, the September 9th. We'll get those all at our next meeting, but tonight we can just do the executive session ones if that's okay.
Yep.
So if anybody wants to make a motion to approve those.
This is specifically the August 5th ones.
August 5th executive session only.
Right.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the August 5th executive session minutes.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Those won't be released until all matters are resolved. That's on those
Right.
executive session ones.
Right.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So at the next meeting, we'll do the June 10th, the July 8th, the August 5th open session, and the September 9th, and then potentially these. And just so you know, Tony is leaving us after 2 meetings.
That
Well,
was
1
quick.
meeting, actually, right?
That was quick, Tony.
Yeah, and Cassie Jordan is going to be taking over.
How you doing?
How you doing?
She's going to be our new secretary. All right. 7 o'clock p.m., we have the continued hearing on the petition of David Knoll, 78 Center Ave. Is that petition here?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Barry Crimmins of 909 Washington Street in Stoughton, here on behalf of the applicant, Donald Knoll. Mr. Knoll could not be present here tonight, but his wife, Janice, is present. This is a continuance of the public hearing from September 9th on an application to convert the property at 78 Center Avenue from a 2-family to a 3-family. It's an application that is allowed under 2 statutory frameworks. Both the local Abington zoning bylaw permits it by means of conversion of a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use, subject to a standard that there not be readily observable differences in various factors that the members are certainly familiar with, sight, noise, etc. As well, Chapter 48, Section 6 permits such a change as long as the proposed non-conforming use is not, in the term of art that's used in the statute, is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conformity. So I would suggest to the board that under either scenario, whether you look at it under the standard of the local zoning bylaw, or if you look at it under the standard as espoused in Chapter 48, Section 6, it meets the criteria. It's been used, was originally used many, many years ago as a 2-family, has been used for several years as a 3-family. You don't know exactly when that occurred. But that's not really relevant to the discussion. The issue is the 2-family is a non-conforming use, and so the proposed change from a 2-family to a 3-family, once again, is proposing to go from a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. I would suggest for the board's consideration, certainly being familiar with the neighborhood, Center Avenue, there are several multi-families throughout the area, not just 2-families, but multi-families, including the other property on the other corner of Lake Street, which is also a multi-family. So it's consistent with the character of the neighborhood. Once again, the standard under 48 Section 6, not substantially more detrimental, and I think the legislature chose its words purposely, not substantially more detrimental, not just more detrimental, but not substantially more detrimental. And those words have meaning, and the courts have recognized that. Similarly, in your bylaw, once again, the standard that not be observable differences in the nature of the use. And once again, I would suggest that going from a two-family to a three-family, adding a one-bedroom basement apartment, by all accounts, is not going to result in any such changes. I know at the end of the last meeting, there was a memo had been submitted on this case by the zoning administrator. We had not been privy to that memo prior to the meeting. Since then, we have received it. I can certainly comment on it, but I also think at that time the board took a vote to refer this matter to town council. It's my understanding that the board has received correspondence from town council. Once again, we're not privy to that, so I really can't comment on that. I'd be happy to do so if there are points in that correspondence that
I'm gonna give you a copy, Attorney Clement.
Sure, thank you. Oops. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'm obviously just seeing this for the first time.
I'll give you a brief
Okay.
rundown. What she's saying is that this should be proposed to us as a request for a special permit
Okay.
versus a Section 6 finding based on the bylaw, because the bylaw does specifically refer to non-conforming uses becoming more non-conforming and states that a special permit can be issued. So that's basically what her...
Right. Okay. So, again, if we look at the standard under the local bylaw, I've referred to it already, but just want, and the members certainly are familiar with it, but under section 175-72, change of use, any non-conforming use of a structure may be changed to another non-conforming use, provided the new use is not a substantially different use as provided below, and approval for such change is granted a special permit by the Board of Appeals. For the purpose of this section, a substantially different use is a use which by reason of its normal operation would cause readily observable differences in patronage, service, site, noise, employment, or similar characteristics from the existing nonconformity. Once again, I would suggest to the board that under any reasonable interpretation of that provision as applies to this proposal, the answer would be no. There will be no readily observable differences in those characteristics. And as such, I would suggest that certainly within the board's purview to grant the request to change the existing nonconforming use to the three-family nonconforming use. So happy to answer any questions that the members may have.
Rich, go ahead.
Let's back step a little bit here. This is an illegal apartment that was found. There's supposed to be a two-family, not a three-family, and it's been run as a three-family, okay? That's just something we need to keep in mind, that the only reason why we're here is because they got caught.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the assessor's office has this listed as a three-family. When my client purchased the property, it was being used as a three-family. I don't know, it was represented to him at the time that it was a three-family. It was occupied as such. The issue that the previous speaker is alluding to is what brought this to the fore. But, certainly, the basement apartment that is the subject of the application was not up to code as found by the building department and fire department. And that is why we're here. But that shouldn't color the nature of the application. The application is to change a non-conforming two-family to a three-family.
And what do you say about what the town council's saying here? You're asking for the wrong thing.
Well, as I said, I think under either scenario, I'm happy to accept town council's interpretation that in her opinion, I should probably hesitate to comment on something that obviously I've just received and not had an update, but that's why I said, whether we look at it as a Section 6 finding, or, this is not, non-conforming uses under Section 6 are not limited to single and two-family. There's a carve-out for single and two-family that provides added protection. But a change from a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use, under that last sentence of the first paragraph of Section 6, encompasses all uses, not just single and two-family. So that's why I said, whether we were to look at this as a Section 6 finding case, or whether we look at this as an application, that's why we listed both sections in the application. We listed the bylaw section and we listed Section 6. I think under either scenario, the standards are very similar, and that's why I cited both standards. The standard of review for this board to apply, as provided in the bylaw and in the statute, are very similar. The idea, I think if you step back for a second, what both the bylaw seeks to prevent and the statute seeks to prevent is a 180-degree change, from one type of non-conforming use to another. For instance, from residential to a business, okay? Or, from a two-family to a eight-family, for instance. Something that, again, when the standard is applied, would result in differences in those factors. Here, going from a 2 to a 3 by means of adding that basement unit, I don't think any reasonable interpretation could result in a determination that you're going to have readily observable differences in the factors that are cited in the bylaw.
You don't think that another whole apartment, with possibly 2 cars, let's say, if it's a couple, greatly changes? If it went from a house that had 2 parking spots to now it's gonna have to have 4 parking spots or 6 parking spots?
We meet the parking requirements.
I do remember can you explain you weren't here, Andy, could you explain the driveway situation?
Sure. I think what you're referring to is the neighbors out back enjoy a right-of-way across my client's property. That gives them the right to pass and repass to and from their property. We cannot do anything that would prohibit or interfere with their ability to enjoy that right. And we have no intention to do so, nor have we done so. My client bought this property in 2017. They have honored that right-of-way. So we can't build a structure on the right-of-way. We can't park a car on the right-of-way, over an extended period of time that would do anything to prevent the abutter from enjoying that right-of-way. We have no intention to. We have not done so since the time that my client has owned the property. I mentioned at the last meeting, if it would help with any concerns, we'd be happy to add signage that would say no parking in the driveway. But again, the introduction of one additional unit, could there be multiple cars in? Could it be a couple where both have cars? Possibly. Although parking requirements are often tied to bedrooms, I think we all know that it can swing one way or the other.
No,
You can have a 3-bedroom unit with 1 car, and you can have a 1-bedroom unit with 3 or 4 cars. There's just no way to know for sure. But regardless, again, we meet the parking requirement, and we understand, my client understands fully what their requirements are relative to the right-of-way that's enjoyed by the abutter.
Attorney Crimmins, how many bedrooms are there in this apartment?
Total of 5, I believe, Noreen. 2, 2, and 1.
No, I mean in this one that you're looking
one.
at.
One.
So it's a 1-bedroom?
1, yes, sorry.
Thanks.
Town council in the missive you just got mentions that it came to light in the first place because there was a structural nonconformity found in the lower unit. What is the plan for that, or has it already been addressed?
So the plan, should this board approve the application, and we submitted conceptual floor plans
Right.
that have been reviewed with the fire department as a preliminary matter. If this board were to approve the special permit, then we would start the building permit application process, which would include the review of the plans by the building department, by the fire department, and by, it would get full inspections, electrical, plumbing, et cetera.
Anybody else have any?
We're not, and if I may,
Yep,
Mr. Chairman,
yep.
we're not adding on to the building, we're not, not increasing the footprint. We're working within the existing structure. We're taking what was admittedly an apartment that was not up to code and proposing to bring it up to code.
Any other questions from the board for Attorney Crimmins?
No.
Now, is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak on this matter? Okay. Rich, just so you're going to sit on this as opposed to me, because I wasn't here at the last meeting, you were, so it's going to be the three of you who make the decision.
We can do that then.
That's how you have to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to recuse myself, and he's going to
Okay.
act.
So
To the board.
I'm sorry, point of info,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, so are you not sitting?
I'm not a voting member.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
because I was not here at the last meeting, so.
Right, okay.
Three of these people were. so.
Okay, thank
Rich
you.
is going to be the alternate. Step
To the
in.
board, I think there was a lot of discussion the last time about me. My name is Harkins, Kathleen Harkins, my husband George. We live at 17 Lake Street, and we share that driveway. We have lived in the house for over 44 years. This whole question of a three-family, it was always a two-family house. We even knew the people that lived on the second floor before we even bought our house over 40 years ago. Somewhere along the line, one of the owners, and it's been sold about 6 times since we've lived there. One of the owners, I think, just to go back to a little history, had a mother that they made a room down in the basement for, which he had access to their apartment. Somewhere along the line, as you brought up, it was an illegal apartment. It was never approved for a three-family. It was never approved. There was no fire inspection, no zoning, and it all came to fruition when they had a medical emergency and the firemen went in and declared it right then and there that it was unsafe, it didn't meet fire, zoning, or whatever regulations. We are adamantly opposed of this because of the shared driveway. My husband had spoken to the owner, and before they hired a lawyer and everything else, explained that the house was always a two-family, even if there was somebody living in there, and there's no way anybody could have entered that apartment and know it was a illegal apartment. There was one exit. I mean, I don't think you have to be a fire inspector or a zoning thing to realize that that's not proper. I said, the reason this all came up is because they got caught, and now they're trying to backtrack. And I thought at the last meeting, there was a issue with an R30. I always was under the impression that any two families are okay, but anything more than that was considered multi-dwellings and wasn't allowed in an R30 zone. I thought that's what was going to town council.
We asked town council to look over this because of the whole violation. You have an R30, and technically, that district is not allowed.
To have three multi-families.
Right, so basically, that's the reason why we wanted her to look at it and get that point.
And what was the ruling on? I don't know what happened.
Well,
now.
non-conforming, the whole thing you were saying about service, site, noise, employment, characteristics. The changing of the non-conforming can be changed. It can be changed. But, again, they're asking for it the wrong way. It should be a special permit. And like I said, the reason why we're here is because that property shouldn't have been used as a three-family.
Exactly, and
Right.
it was only because they got caught.
Now, I don't know what the tax record says, I don't know what,
And I don't know
what
how
they
that
bought it as.
got changed.
They don't even know when it changed to a three-family.
Right.
So-
It was never, it's not legal. I mean, how can you have a
Right.
three-family with an illegal
So they're asking for a
basement?
three-family, right?
Right.
So, just to maybe answer your question a little bit, this is an R30 zone.
Right,
Two families are not allowed in an R30 zone.
Right.
But this is a two-family that was there prior to
Right.
zoning.
but
So
it's
a
not,
non-
wasn't a three-family.
No, I understand,
Okay.
so it's a non-conforming use.
Right, I
And the
get
zoning
it.
bylaw allows the zoning board of appeals to grant a special permit to a non-conforming use going to another non-conforming use.
Right.
But that
So
would
it's
be,
going from a two-family to a three-family, so they're both non-conforming uses, so that's why it's here, is because,
even though they're increasing it to a
Yeah.
three-family?
Yes.
they did, that's just gives the zoning board the authority to hear it and potentially grant the special permit.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's why there are two families in Arthur, because they got approved.
Well, I know there's some on
Yeah, right, on
Center
the other-
Ave,
right, on
but
the-
that was before, those houses go back to 1900s,
Right,
and
there
it
you
was
go.
before the zoning law and
Right.
stuff. But I know our street, we live on Lake Street, and it's most of the homes are, in my immediate neighborhood, are single-family residential thing. And the reason that, I'm just gonna read a little bit, I think I had submitted this the last meeting, but we had to drive 2 hours to come up from a family function for the last meeting. That we have the right of way to that driveway, it's stated in our deed
Right.
and everything. It can't be blocked, but it's great concern to us with this change that it would have a negative impact on us because there would be increased tenants. And it's not just tenants, it's visitors. We've had like several owners of this place, and every now and then, we've always been able to work things out and everything. But this is changing, a permanent change to
Yeah.
the structure. We know what it was like, because we've lived there for 44 years. And the thing is, the more people you have living there, the more chance there's going to be conflict. And I know some of you weren't here at the last meeting, but I did explain one situation which the owner did handle, but she had blocked in a resident that was trying to leave or something, and they had to call the police, and they blocked the driveway. But that whole time that driveway was blocked, we could not go in and out of our driveway. Then it's fine for them to say it's not changing anything. It's greatly changing our value of our home, the inconvenience of having more cars there. And it's not just one bedroom, one car. You have kids that could be there that's driving with parents that's got 2 cars. It's just the increased activity, and we feel that our consideration is not being and even respected here. The variance would have an adverse effect on us with the increased number of people living in there. Right now, the illegal apartment that they did have was very small. You couldn't fit many more people. But now you're expanding it, they're making the apartment bigger. So I think that could allow more people to live there. And like I said, we live on Lake Street, which is all a residential street. We don't want any trouble. We just want to protect our right. We've lived there for over 44 years. We've invested time and money. They do not live at the property, so any arrangement that comes up, it's we that have to deal with it on a daily basis. They're not there. It's not their home. They just have it as rental property. When we purchased our home, we knew it was a two-family with a shared driveway, and it was owner-occupied at the time. We've never had trouble. Like I said, every now and then, it's not even just the tenants, the visitors will, park there not knowing that they're not supposed to. In the past, most of the time, it has been owner-occupied, so it's usually handled very quickly. But it just doesn't seem fair to us that our property home and our valuation of our property will go down after we've lived there for so long, paid taxes in this town for over 44 years, rose our kids up in this thing. And unfortunately, our needs haven't changed. We want it to stay the way it was. So we're hoping that the right decision here, it does adversely affect, it affects me, it affects my family. Even though they may not be physically changing the conforming of the thing, they are increasing the size. And it just seems like we should have some rights to be able to not allow this to happen. We're hoping that this just gets resolved quickly, so no further action will have to be taken. But I just have to say, we're just trying to protect, we're quiet neighbors, we don't bother anyone, but this is a permanent decision that will have long-acting consequences that could be detrimental to us for the rest of our life that we're living in this house. And like Mr. Negrella brought up,
Grelli, yeah.
it all came out. I think that sugarcoating the fact that they were renting out an illegal apartment. And it wasn't a three-family. It was somewhere along the line, one of the owners made a room down there for their mother-in-law. But somewhere along the line, it got changed into a thing. But I mentioned the last time, anyone that went into that apartment would know, you can't play innocent and say, well, we thought it was a three-family. It just does. I don't know how you got a mortgage without it being inspected and that being brought up. I don't even know how it got this far. When we bought our home, we had to have it inspected.
Right.
When you take out insurance, you have to have it inspected. We had a realtor in town that looked at it and told his agency, do not touch it, it's not a legal apartment, you know? So I can't believe that if you're gonna rent out an apartment, you wouldn't check these things out ahead of time. So I don't understand, to get a variance, I thought it was a difficult thing to do when you had to show.
Well, they're not asking for a variance.
Okay.
And it is a difficult thing to do to get a variance.
And I
Yes.
thought you had to have some type of hardship. I mean, the hardship is on us. Like, we've lived there for 40 years, and now they're trying to change it from a two-family to a three-family. And I know there's other people on Lake Street that wouldn't like all of a sudden all these multi-family homes going up.
Right.
I think you have to protect, there has to be some protection. And I fully understand why they would want it. They have increased rental property, the value of their home will go up. They don't live there, so they don't have to deal with it. But we're in the opposite end of it. And like I said, we don't want any trouble. We just want to protect our investment and our value of our home that we paid for and lived and paid taxes on for over 44 years.
Thank you. I don't know if anybody has any questions from the board.
No.
Anybody else want to speak on this petition? Yes, sir. Then you can go. Just your name and address, please.
Yeah, George Harkins, 17 Lake Street. The only thing I have, comment I have to make is he keeps saying we enjoy a right-of-way. This right-of-way came about because originally the property in question was one land, just land with one house, our house. Then someone put a house on the corner. And in 1943 is when this right-of-way, we were lucky to enjoy this right-of-way. It's not an enjoyment of a right-of-way. It's part of the whole deal that came in, and it's in the deed, and it's been since 1943 that it's been there, so we don't enjoy it. It's part of the whole deal of when the person built the house, they were nice enough to, they got together, whoever was doing it, you know, talked it over and came up with this, so it's not an enjoyment, so I just wanted to add that comment too.
Thank you.
Sort of a term of art.
No.
Anybody else? Ma'am, did you want to?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Janice Bogosian, 30 Orchard Lane, Abington. I just wanted to say that when the incident happened, that this all came about, I went right over there and I spoke to George, and he told me that he always had known it as a three-family. I did my research before we hired Barry, and it was purchased by a police officer, an Abington police officer, and his wife, and they built an apartment downstairs for his mother-in-law. After it was done, it was inspected by the fire department, and it passed inspection as a three-family. So I don't understand why they keep saying it's not a three-family. We bought it in 2017 as a three-family. We would have never bought something that was illegal. We're not stupid. Well, now I feel stupid because this is all happening. But we would have never purchased it as a three-family if we knew it wasn't. We also extended the driveway, the parking area. At the time when things were going on, there was 7 cars there. Nobody had an issue parking. Their issue is, yes, we understand they have the right-of-way. We don't deny that. But they also have another driveway on Lake Street that they use too. So they have 2 driveways. They have an RV. We understand that. We have no issues. I was gonna have a yard sale there. I went and told George that I was gonna have a yard sale prior to, so he would know with the RV, if you're going away this weekend, we will conform to the time frame that you're leaving. We won't, but we did it off to the side. We left plenty of space for the tenants to pull out, and he could have pulled his RV out as well. We did it off to the side. And then there was a realtor who owned it after the police officer and his wife. She should have known it was an illegal apartment.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
The apartment right now, though,
Uh-huh.
does it pass everything?
It's empty. We've left it as is.
Yeah,
We
but
were
right
told
now,
to-
does it pass all codes and everything?
I
No.
don't think so,
So you're
no.
telling me that doesn't make any sense to me. So right now, you're telling me that when the inspectors went in and they said, you don't pass any codes,
Right.
so that doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, to build an apartment, you need to have permits and all that,
Right.
and you have to be up to code.
Joyce, let me respond, please. If I may, through you, Mr. Chairman. We acknowledge that in January, when the incident arose, we were informed by the building department and the fire department that it didn't meet code. That's why we're here. We're not,
Yeah, but I'm just saying that, you're telling me all sweet things here that,
I'm
they
not-
bought the house and everything should have passed,
Well,
the permits and everything.
you somehow implying some nefarious conduct on the part of my client that just
Well, all I'm
doesn't
saying is,
exist.
right now, the permits have not been.
Right, and that's
right.
why it's not occupied.
Correct, so well, how did it become a three-family, and how did the permits get through? How is it up to date? You have people living down there,
You heard,
you have people living down there before you got caught, and it was not up to code. That's the bottom line there, right?
you heard my client just state that when they purchased the property, they had it inspected and it passed.
But
Now,
that doesn't make sense to me. Right now, it's not passing at all. You
I-
have to, the fire department, it did not pass the fire departments.
There are many instances where a property or a unit that at one point was in code, people do things. They remove smoke detectors, they change layouts.
Well, I'm a fireman, and I do inspections, so.
Okay,
I actually do, when you sell your home, I go in and inspect it.
Okay.
So, there's a real good question here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now it's not up to code. This unit was not up to code.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just, and it's been sold.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Again, the suggestion is simply not supported by the facts.
Well, it's not a three-family, that's for sure. It's not a three-family.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I have another issue that I need to raise with the board. It's kind of twofold. Again, as I mentioned, only just received town council's opinion tonight, and although I've had an opportunity to peruse it, I'd like a further opportunity to look at it in a little more detail. I think that's only fair. I also, frankly, wasn't aware that the chair would not be sitting as a voting member on the case, so it creates an issue of the voting quorum. And so for those reasons,
What would the?
No, there's no
what the
voting
issue
quorum. They were
there
talking
is?
about-
It's a three-member board.
Right,
these
but-
three- These
but we're
three
not-
gentlemen, let me just finish.
Okay.
These three gentlemen were at the meeting
Mhm.
last time. I
Right.
was not here, so these three gentlemen will be the ones who are voting.
no, I understand. And certainly, the chair would be able to vote were you to review the record of the September meeting under the Mullen Rule, so.
I understand that, but that's, these guys.
I understand.
are here, and that's the way.
I understand,
That's my
it's-
prerogative.
No, I understand, yeah. That's why I say, it's one of two issues. First and foremost, being the fact that, we received an opinion of town council, literally at the start of the
I
meeting.
understand that, yeah.
And for that reason, I think it's reasonable that the hearing be continued to your next meeting, to give us an opportunity to review that opinion and to respond appropriately.
And we want to make sure that, if there's any time limits on this, that
Well, if we have an agreed upon continuance, there's not gonna be
it's
anything.
been continued once, so.
Right, but as long
Right.
as as long as
Yeah.
everybody agrees to it, there's not anything.
And again, they're asking for the wrong thing, so.
You might want to address that, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's gonna be, again, it's up to these three
Right.
guys. If they want to agree to a continuance, they can do that.
Right, I understand.
Is that what you're requesting?
Yes, please.
So would I chair that discussion? or
I can still chair it, it's just
Okay,
you
just
guys.
be at the board,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
I believe your next meeting is October 9th?
November.
I'm sorry, November 19th?
It'll be the second Thursday.
That's a holiday, it's the 18th.
November 18th, because the 11th is a holiday, so, Veterans Day. So it'll be November 18th. That's right.
November 18th?
Yeah. So if somebody wants to make a
Right.
motion to that effect, feel free.
I would like to move that we continue this matter until the next meeting in order for the petitioner to have time to review council's missive and also to consider what format the application is being made in.
So the November 18th at 7 o'clock p.m.
I'll second that.
And there's a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
So-
I'm still a little confused, and I'm not going to blame anyone.
Why don't you come up here?
But I don't understand, you were saying when they purchased the house, it was inspected? Because I don't think anything's changed in that apartment. That it was inspected by fire and it was up to code at that point?
I guess that's a question to you, Attorney Cronin.
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
that is my understanding, yes.
I don't get that. I mean, you probably, if you know fire things, there was one exit. I thought in a fire, in an apartment, you have to have two exits in. I don't think they've changed it or made it any worse. I think it was always like that. But how, I don't understand how this all process happened. How do you have it listed as a three-family? And I'm not blaming anybody, I've lived there for all these years and can't figure out how this whole process worked. How do you have it listed as a three-family when the basement apartment has not changed since they moved in? I don't believe they've done any constructural change. How does it not be up to code, both building and thing, never inspected, and yet listed as a three-family? There seems to be a deeper problem.
Well, all
here.
I can suggest is maybe you talk to somebody in the building department and ask them to see the file, or the assessor's office and ask them to see their file.
Well, I was just surprised when he
Yeah.
said,
I
did
understand,
you
yeah.
have the fire department check it before you bought it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Excuse me, we don't want to get into
Right,
it. Yeah.
I mean, that kind of discussion you can have outside if you don't mind,
Okay, all
because
right.
we do have other things.
I
to do.
thought that's what he said, and
Yeah.
I just don't understand that nothing has changed, so I don't understand
Yeah.
how it, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know how it got this far. If you took out a mortgage, doesn't the mortgage company come out? I mean, it had to have been brought up to somebody's attention along the line. It just doesn't seem like it would never have been brought to anybody's attention. Either the building inspector or fire inspection, homeowners that come out, insurance, I
Yeah, I
don't,
don't know the answers to those questions.
it just
We'll have to discuss
baffles
it
me.
more in the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just before you take the vote, since the issue...
Oh, we already
We already did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
So, October 18th, 7
Great.
o'clock.
Thank you.
November.
I'm sorry, November 18th. so-
Occupational hazard.
Yes, right, November. November 18th.
All right.
All right, next on the agenda, I'm going to read this notice of prior, when you read the notice at the prior meeting, so. The Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 14th, 2021, at 7:05 PM at the Abington Town Offices, 500 Glenwood's Way, Abington, on the petition of ENK Trust, Robert Matthews, trustee, P.O. Box 2257, Abington, for a special permit under 175-35 for construction of a single-family home within floodplain and wetlands protection district and waiver of environmental impact statement at Dorsey Street. The property is located on Assessors Map 51, Lot 24, 25, 34, and 35 in the R30 zone. R. Andrew Burbine, Chairman, Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Matthews?
No, I don't think we do. Did we get, did you guys?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, yeah, I do have it, so yeah. I got Dorsey Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle Garvey, CW Garvey Company, representing EMK Realty, Robert Matthews, trustee on property located on Dorsey Street, being shown on Assessors Map 51, lots 24, 25, 34, and 35. Property contains 42,224 square feet. The property lies within the R3 zoning district. Property is also shown on a plan by Alan Stone as lots 68, 69, 81, and 82 on a plan dated April 13th, 1951. Roadway construction of Dorsey Street was performed at the time Century Estates was constructed, which is a 38-lot subdivision that connects Dorsey Street to Murphy Street, which was approved by the Abington Planning Board in 2008 and was later constructed up to very recently. This proposal calls for the construction of a single-family home, driveway, underground utilities, sewer, water, electric, and site grading. All work will be performed in an upland area as defined by the Wetlands Protection Act. There will be no altering of any wetlands. This plan was approved by the Abington Conservation Commission under DEP file number 84-546. The construction will alter a small portion of the lot, approximately 10,400 square feet of the 42,000 total square footage will remain as a wooded buffer area. The order of conditions filed with DEP found the project would comply with wetland standards for impacts to groundwater supply, storm damage prevention, and flood control. Also under your bylaw, it would be connected to the town sewer and water under your section. So basically, on the plan, you can see where the house would sit, driveway. It conforms to the front, side, rear setbacks. This would be the entire area of the lots, which, like I say, really was established back in 1951, which was part of the Crossley Street development. Myself and Mr. Matthews would be able to ask any questions the board may have.
Any questions from the board at this point?
Well, the legal description of the property, that the four lots are become one property?
Yeah, the four lots become one. They're combined now under common ownership, so it's in an R30 zone, so if you cut out 30,000, you only have 12,000 left, so there is no additional buildable area.
And why are you asking for a waiver of environmental impact statement?
Why?
Yeah.
Because it says we're allowed to, once we file a notice of intent with the Abington Conservation Commission and DEP, and it's also available for single-family homes.
It's not a waiver, you're looking for a special permit, not a waiver.
Special permit,
Yeah,
correct.
right, they're not looking to waive it, right, they're looking for an actual special permit to be able to build.
And a waiver of environmental impact statement.
Well, yeah, that's normally takes place if you were constructing, if we were in a floodplain and we were constructing a mall or something to that effect, or multifamily apartments, we would be submitting a environmental impact statement, but your bylaw says for single or two-family homes, a waiver can be requested if you file with the Conservation Commission.
And this is, let me take a look first. Is that consider all wetlands right there? The green to the side? This side right here?
Yeah, it was in through this area.
So that's not buildable, correct?
Right, correct.
And that, is that uplands right there? Is that the reason why it's buildable?
Yeah, this is all uplands.
I'm trying to picture this because it's kind of hard to picture this, exactly where it is. I mean, you show us this diagram with all these houses. They're not there though, right?
Yes, there is.
These houses right here? This is the section you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
So this street isn't here, is it?
no,
Okay. So this is Dorsey Street,
yeah.
comes up, and,
Well, yeah,
oh, this is Randolph Street, okay.
yeah, these houses are all here, these houses are all here, these houses are all here.
Okay.
Those houses are all there.
It's just this right here, this section right here? Or is it?
That what?
Is this a paper street or is that a real street?
It's, yeah, it's a street that will never be constructed.
Okay, paper
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
What is the name of that paper street?
Is it Chamberlain?
Chamberlain Street. Yeah.
So it's a paper street?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I did. All right.
On, you have Crosley Street, Dorsey Street that goes into Cynthia Road. Dorsey Street is extended, it wraps around to Murphy Street. There were 35, 36 lots constructed within the Century Estates. This is our locus. This is the road that they upgraded to get into Century Estates, which basically allowed this lot to be built on.
Okay, I just want to take a look exactly.
Is there any town right-of-way or anything for that Chamberlain Street?
No. I mean, it's a private way. There's separate
Right.
owners. Each owner would have a fee to the center line, under land court. But it's a way that will never be developed.
Okay, I see it now. This is where that, all those houses were built after the land sat there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Correct.
So in the bylaw, Carl, it talks about floodplain requirements in certain districts, zones A,
Yeah.
and E. What district is this in, do you know?
Pardon me?
What district is this piece of property? Is it in a zone, a flood
Yeah,
zone?
where is
Zone A or
that?
Zone AE or?
Oh, no, it is not in
Oh,
FEMA flood
R30,
zone.
R30 zone? Is that what you're looking for?
I'm talking about.
No, he's talking about a FEMA flood zone, no.
It's not in any
No,
of those?
absolutely not.
So that doesn't apply?
No, it does not.
Okay.
It's in a zone C, actually.
Okay.
It's also only a small portion of the lot.
Yeah,
It's
you-
actually shown on the wetland,
Oh.
DEP wetland change maps. Let me see. Oh, this one actually shows, this is the lot.
Oh, that's where it is, right there?
Yeah, so this is the lot, Crosley. You can see the new houses that
Yep,
were
yep,
constructed.
yep. All right, that's a good picture, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions at this point?
No.
Anybody in, yes, sir. Take the name and address, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Scott Cottrell. I live at 171 Dorsey Street in Abington. I'm the abutting property owner. If you'll indulge me for a second, I got a couple points, 3 points I'd like to make and 2 quick questions I'd like to ask, and I promise I'll be quick. The first piece is my home is part of the Century Estates subdivision. My wife and I built our home there in 2018, and when we signed on to build that home, we actually had to evaluate the drainage easement because a portion of it actually falls onto my property. It was a big part of us deciding to build our home and move our family to Abington. And the flooding has always been a huge concern. We heard it from the other neighbors, that the water is abundant in the neighborhood and to be cautious because the easement is on my property. After talking to a few different developers, reviewing the plans that the town provided, reviewing plans that the developer provided, we decided to take the risk. And kudos to whoever built the easement, because this drainage area is full of water. My house is not. And that's awesome. And that makes me really happy that I moved here, but I have standing water in my backyard. I have standing water outside of this. And my concern is that that easement that has kept the water out of my home and in my yard, when they build the home in this wetland or upland or whatever we want to call it, I call it a puddle, it's all going to move into my home. So to be blunt, I'm very opposed to this. I'm the property touching it, the easement is on my home, and my sub pump goes like crazy when it rains outside, okay? So I have concerns that the property value of my home and the home that I built in 2018 is going to be sewered by flooding by this new development. Okay, that's my first point. My second point is that since March of 2020, I have worked at home 24/7, 365, 7 days a week. In that time, one surveyor has come to my home and looked at my backyard for a total of 10 minutes. There was 2 of them. One of them smoked a cigarette the whole time, the other one actually surveyed. So I just have concerns that we've actually done the due diligence to understand what's going to happen to the water and all of the drainage easements that are in place in the Century Estates subdivision when this goes and actually takes place. I'm sure more has happened than just that one surveyor that I saw in my backyard, but in terms of boots on the ground, people actually putting their feet in the wetness and walking around in it, I'm not sure people have really gone and thought about how are we going to move this water and what's going to happen when that does occur, okay? My third point is that if you have come to my property and you look at the tree line, what you'll notice is all the trees right on the tree line, they're all dead, and they're huge, right? And that's because I cleared the land on my property, and we've worked with Hanson Tree to take them all down. When I got this notice, I had them come back, and they confirmed that if we start clearing that stuff out, the trees that are not on my property, if they don't get buried, clearing that land is going to kill those trees. I have a concern that those trees are going to fall onto my home. So I guess I'll summarize it as saying my concern about this development is that I'm going to have water in my basement and a tree through my roof. And you know, if I had known this was going to be the case when in 2018 the town of Abington told me people can't build on this wetland, I'm not sure I would have built my home here and moved my family here. My 2 questions that I had on the end is the town provided us a list of the assessor's maps that we could look at to view this plot. Are those maps future looking or current state?
Those would be current, I believe, if they're assessors.
Is there any way we can get them updated to reflect current state? I had never heard the term paper road. That's clearly something that you guys are very familiar with. The current plans don't look like what our neighborhood looks like. Chamberlain Street is a real street off Dorsey Street, not the paper street. There's another one, it's a right. And when I look at it, it doesn't look like the neighborhood I live in. It makes it very hard to understand what's happening because everything is in legalese. So if this is something that's going to be evaluated, is it possible to get up-to-date maps of what these plots look like?
Well, the assessors maps are generally just to have them be able to set the tax rate and that sort of thing.
Can we
So
ask the developer to provide up-to-date plots of what it's going to look like?
We may be able to do that, so.
Okay, awesome. And then I got on a roll and forgot what my last question was, so if you give me one moment. Oh, yeah, this is an easy one. This is the first time I've ever done something like this, so I guess my question is, when there was a hearing on June 29th, I'm the abutting property owner. I didn't get a notice for that. I also didn't get a notice for tonight. The only reason I knew about it is because my neighbor told me. How do I make sure I'm in the loop with what's happening here and that I make sure my voice is heard at each step of the way? How do I stay in the loop?
Well, the June 29th meeting was the initial, was this the first meeting we've had on this?
There was a meeting on June 29th.
That might have been with another,
Oh, that was a
board.
conservation committee, that wasn't us.
So how do I stay in the loop?
Well,
with
you
you should have been
you
notified
should
for
have
this
been
meeting.
notified, I can imagine this, but-
Because, don't we have it right here in our packet that was checked off? These are the checked off points right here?
That would be, that's what they use the assessment.
Yeah.
For the abutters. But that's for us, I'm not sure how the Conservation Commission.
No
what
problem,
their
but
requirements
basically,
are.
what I'm hearing is if I can just work with you guys, make sure my name and address is on that mailing and notification list.
As an abutter, you're.
Well,
As
this
a
is,
butter for
it's
my-
their responsibility to notify you.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I found out because my neighbor Dan told me about
But
it.
tonight's meeting,
Yes,
you didn't get an,
I did not.
I mean, that's an issue right there.
if you are actually in a butter.
It's the assessors, it's the most recent tax list that
Right.
the assessors give us, that they certify. When did you buy your house?
2018.
Well, you should, I'm surprised he's not on the list.
Yeah.
You have a copy of the list in the packet.
They gave me the notice, I'm curious as to, I'll be honest, it feels like it's trying to get snuck in a little bit.
Well, I can see you're paranoid about that, but there must have been just a mistake. But it shouldn't have happened, because everyone should be notified.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, you have a copy of the list.
Usually I just have the secretary probably has it, actually. Because
looking
these
right
are
I
just
I don't want to
showing,
hold up the meeting. I'll make
These-
sure she
these
has
are
my
just
name and
the
address so that
checkoffs
we can keep things
that
moving.
these people.
I cede my
know.
time. Thanks, guys.
Just, Scott, just so you know. Just so you know that if we don't make a decision tonight, if this meeting is continued, we will announce that tonight, but we don't send out new notices. It's
Okay,
just
but it
so.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
But that may be a problem that he was not notified too. I don't know if we can continue the meeting.
Oh,
I mean, I'm
they
just
go,
asking.
they go based on what the assessors have. If his name's not on the assessors list, then that's what, is not most.
We don't do the list, the
Right.
assessors.
The
We
assessors,
pay
they
the
get the,
assessors
they get the
to
list
do
from the
the list.
town.
I promise I pay my taxes.
No?
All right.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
My name's also Scott Pitsley. I live on 141 Cynthia Road. So I'm part of the Century Estates as well in the plan. I was the third house within this development, so I've seen a lot of things go on from the beginning. The only want to make 2 points because Scott obviously nailed some really good points about the water, and that's what I was going to bring up. I've seen so many people's basements flooded within our development as it is. And when people were moving in or working with the developer, we actually gave them fair warning, like, you may want to be very careful. There's a lot of water in this neighborhood. Because apparently, we were built on wetlands as it is. And the reason why I accepted is because it was already knocked down. I mean, you couldn't save the trees at that point, it was already done. And then my other point wanted to be with the wildlife. I've never seen so many deer in my life. These guys have nowhere to go. There's frogs constantly in my windows, on the ground, because it's a swamp. So I would just implore to keep these things in mind when going through these proceedings, that there are some other things at play besides just these 4 houses they want to put in. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mike Staniswaso, 190 Cynthia Road. As Scott both said, I'm also a member of the Century Estates Development. Unlike Scott, I was not as fortunate and did end up having water in my basement. I bought my property in 2017. I haven't had as much water damage in my basement as some of my neighbors had, and I've still had some. My backyard, as Scott mentioned, is just standing water. Constantly, I recently had Needle Brothers come in to literally run my drainage underground and push it out a little bit further, see if that helps. So I've had work done on my house, I've had water in my basement. It is a constant problem, and running in back of my property, if I understand the map correctly, my property should abut perhaps the end of this proposed property to the south. And there is a water drainage running straight through, which is doing its job to some degree, but clearly not entirely effective as it is. Any sort of building on this, which I'm sure if I were building, if it was me, I would build it up as much as I could because the water is terrible. Everything's gonna run, it's gonna make everything infinitely worse for folks like myself, Scott, my neighbors on not just Cynthia, but Murphy, the other houses on Dorsey, and especially the neighbors on Crossley, who I know have already been impacted from the building of Century Estates to begin with. So I would implore the board, is in the strongest terms possible, to not allow for this to be built. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did someone say 4 houses? Did someone say 4 houses?
One house.
Okay, all right.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Name is LeBrun. I abut this swamp. We constantly, you talk about having a sump pump, I got 4 going. And you're gonna make it worse with this thing. Not gonna do any better. I don't give a shit about retaining wall.
Oh, sure.
Sir,
Sure.
watch your language, please.
I get a little carried away.
Okay, it's all right.
I can tell.
And not only, this is wetlands, it's a replicated wetland. If you look back in the history, when they were doing work here, this was wetland. So to do work here, they got a thing to replicate it over here.
Okay.
And that was replicated wetland.
So everything was put into the middle. That's what it looks like.
I've had plenty of water.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add? Yes, sir.
All they care about is money.
George O'Toole, live at 99 Crossley Street. This property, Century Estates, when it was built, and it's, you know, they put everything together, I'm a side of Century Estates. The water issues, it just went off the charts, the sub pump, since that's been built. Now we're talking about putting a house behind a house on wetlands, now more water's gonna run off. You get on that street when it's raining, like the gentleman just talked about, there's drainage in that street, but that water flies down there because it's all coming from the wetlands coming over. There's no proper drainage there to handle something like this being built there. That's wetlands. There's permits there. There's a thing on the ground saying these are wetlands. DEP permits are all there. How do you take a house and put it on top of wetlands? Because you can build up higher. Like, what is Abington going to turn into? We can just keep putting houses right on top of houses. This house goes to be behind another guy's house, between another guy's house, and they're going to build a road off of main drag, run it in there, and throw a house in between two people's houses. They did it on the other side of the house, by Mr. Berry's house. They did the same thing. Just wetlands, whatever, just throw the house right in the middle there. Forget the wetlands, forget the wildlife. What is Abington going to turn into if this just keeps going on? Because you can do it. I just don't understand it. But this should not be allowed to move forward because the water issue in that neighborhood is crazy. My sump pump's always going. I get it, but now we're going to add more onto it? I just don't understand it. I'm totally opposed to this. This doesn't make any sense. If you guys took a ride out there and looked at the property, automatically go, no way, we're putting a house there. Makes no sense at all. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. No, because he's the proponent, so that's.
I'm Dan Conklin. I live at 30 Murphy Street. I'm at the opposite end of where they're proposing to either put the driveway in and the houses opposite of this gentleman here. And in the back, there is actual, like, an easement for where the water is now going. Like you said, if we're gonna put another house in, which is clearly wetlands, I mean, there's no doubt that when you look at that is going to, there's water, there's standing water there all the time. I can't see, I'm not an engineer, but if you're gonna put a house in, you have to bring fill in, which is gonna bring the house, the foundation up, and that water has to go somewhere. I'm lucky enough that I haven't had water in my basement yet, but I don't want that to occur. So I'm definitely, opposed to this happening.
Thank you. I think Mr. Matthews wanted to go first.
Yeah, I want to reply to some of these concerns.
Well, let me just hold on. Is there anybody else who wants to speak who's opposed to this at this point? And then I'm going to allow Mr. Garvey then.
Should be noted that the abutting, our lot is in here, the abutting lot number 24, number 25, number 28, number 22, all of these lots were also within the town floodplain, same case that we are. The water, the reason they have water in their backyard is because they have a detention basin that was designed to pick up runoff that comes from Murphy Street. It comes into this detention basin. It then flows out into a manhole, comes to a manhole at the just west of our lot. It is then piped down Dorsey Street away from the site. The lots across the street, there's also a detention basin in their backyard where pipes come in from Dorsey Street, Cynthia Road, that this detention basin holds water, it releases it into a manhole here, and it also goes up and it also flows down Dorsey Street. Our lot is, elevation-wise, is 189, with elevation 189, with a low spot of 183. The house is, top of foundation is up at elevation 193. This lot does not contribute to any of the lots within the Century Estates. Matter of fact, they all flow towards our particular lot. And there are catch basins directly in front of our lot. Any flow coming down the driveway would be collected by the catch basins that goes into a drainage system. And I was not one of the surveyors out there smoking a cigarette, but we have done a complete field topography of this lot, actually probably prior to him purchasing the property. The wetlands was delineated by Pine Brook Consulting. This lot is not, portion of the lot is within a wetland. It's also shown on the DEP wetland change map. We are not altering any wetlands, and we've designed it. It will not contribute to any flooding of any abutters. Thank you.
Okay, all right, hold on.
Hold on. Somebody who hasn't spoken first. Go ahead, sir.
I'll be very brief.
Name and
Derek
address,
Mitchell,
name and address, please.
22 Murphy Street. So,
Name again?
Derek Mitchell, 22 Murphy Street. So I'm part of Century Estates, and love my house, love my neighborhood. But we're thinking about current state, are we thinking about future state? Climate change is real. How much more moisture do you think these grounds can take? We've already seen the proof this past summer with the amount of rain that we received. So I think you guys should just think about that as you think about building future houses, current houses and future houses on wetlands. That's all I'll say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
B. Crayson. I came here for a different thing, but I wanted the board to take into consideration, we come from a neighborhood that was.
Your address, ma'am? Your address?
147 Green Street.
Okay.
We are all from a neighborhood that was actually built on wetlands, that if the builders today would try to petition, it would not get approved. We have had water issues to this day with multiple sump pumps. Whenever there's a big storm, they reach it, constant water issues. It has been a point of contention for most of the neighbors in that area. We have that Green Street neighborhood thing. It's all a big puddle. None of the kids even use it. So please, take the concerns of these neighbors to heart, because it does something that, you think it won't matter. I understand the whole point of builders, why they want to do this, but it does, there are consequences down the road, and, it won't go away, it will just worsen, and it has. So that's something, and now we have more people. Those houses were meant to be for, maybe single family, maybe 2-bedroom houses. Now you have multiple cars, you've got double the amount of people, and it's just, there's a lot of things to factor in. So I would take their advice to heart there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Anybody else? Mr. Matthews?
Rob Matthews, owner of the property. And I just want to say I'm sorry.
Just your address, Rob?
I'm in Falmouth, 40 Cuddy Sock Road, Falmouth, formerly of Abington. And, I'm sorry for all the problems people are having at Century Estates, but I would ask the board not to hold that against us. We didn't build those homes. I know that there's always been water up there before they built them. Don't hold that against us. We've been paying taxes on that lot. We went to conservation. We've got a professional here saying the water's being moved to the retention basin. That's all I'd ask. We've been paying taxes. We've got conservation. We've owned it for a long time. And we've got conservation approval, and I don't think we're asking for a lot. Century Estates got the floodplain overlay. All the houses on Century Estates got exactly what we're asking for. And we didn't create the problem up there. Floodplain overlay, I don't think is a big deal. It is a big deal, but we're not asking for a variance either. So that's all I had. Thank you.
But was that property bought after the estates, or did you always own it?
The family always owned it, and when Mr. Kelly passed away, we bought it from the estate.
So we're talking about that whole property that was sitting there undeveloped for many years, correct? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, it's been probably 20,
So the
20
question
years.
is, someone brought it up, that and when people build, they have to set aside a piece of property. Is that written somewhere that it had been done?
With Century Estates, you mean?
Yes. You know, when
Some-
they cleared it
somebody
out,
else-
did they have to leave a piece of property?
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't know.
Somebody had mentioned that there was some replicated wetlands
Right.
on
Yeah.
that particular.
Because anytime you
property.
build in wetlands, you have to you leave a piece.
Yeah,
to
I
say.
think that's what some of the catch basins are. Yeah, I don't know.
It was, I'm not sure it was done legally. There was,
What's that?
I said, I'm not sure that when they did the replication, it was really done legally between two owners as an easement, but this property never had any connection with the development of the out back. What happened was you had a wetland for them to put in Dorsey Street, they had a wetland crossing that they had to do, and then they replicated it, and I think they were supposed to replicate it within the Chamberlain, but they cheated it over a little bit, but it was done. It's also shown on,
I mean, did the conservation board look at this?
yeah, there's conservation markers out there marking off the replication area. Yeah, yeah, it was. This replication area was an upland that they made up for the roadway to go in there, which also was shown on the record subdivision plan. Was this is our lot.
Yep.
This is the wetlands, and it crossed the street. So this area that they were going to pave and fill in and put utilities in, they had to replicate that square footage, and they put it over here.
And is that what the house is being built?
No, the house is being built.
On the other side, down
Yeah,
below?
yeah.
So that whole area that we're looking at there, the green, oh, sorry, got it down, is not part of the full development. In other words.
Century Estates.
Century
It
Estates.
was never part of Century Estates. It was always owned by the Kelly family, which is shown on the plan that was done for Century Estates.
Okay, because sometimes when you have a large development, there has to be a set of, woods or wetlands
So
left
some,
over.
I mean, these lots here were created in 1951. They were just never developed. Dorsey Street was never constructed. Crosley Street was developed.
Yeah.
Those lots were, all 10,000 square foot lots. And this is 4 of those lots. So at one time, there was an intent to develop this road and build 4 houses at one time.
So, Carl, you're not proposing any kind of drainage or anything, it's just gonna run off into the storm drains, is that what you're proposing here?
Yeah, basically on a single-family home, under stormwater management, you don't have to file under stormwater management for a single-family home.
I know you don't have to, but maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a driveway that goes, there's 2 catch basins here. When this development was designed, it was designed to pick up runoff from this particular lot because it was higher than the road. Okay, so.
Anybody else? Okay, sir.
I got a question. Do we have something from the planning board?
I don't know.
Was it something written from the planning board about this?
Did you, I didn't see anything.
Tony, did you?
I didn't.
I think it was an email.
Oh. Yeah,
Oh, you got it right here? Oh, okay.
I think it's this one right here, very,
No, I thought there was something from
oh,
the actual planning board.
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry. I just,
No, that's all right.
there was a comment that was made, and I feel like it went a little unheard, and I just want to make sure everybody hears it, which is, when the proponent came back up, he said that he wasn't one of the surveyors smoking a cigarette, but they did have a full surveyor done before I built my home. I purchased my property in February of 2018. That'll be 4 years ago in February, meaning that the expert showing us the drainage had surveying done when less than 10 of 39 homes were built. I think it highlights the recklessness by which they're actually taking the water issue into consideration. If that was the last time they had a full surveyor done, just based on that comment, it was over 4 years ago, land looks nothing like it did back then. Thanks.
I'd like to further comment on that. His house was constructed by R&R Reardon out of Mr. Rosen's office in Whitman. At the time I was surveying, they were constructing this house. We actually went through this yard, picked up the drainage in the back out of the detention basin. We had an agreement to tie in under that driveway on his property, on the apron within the layout, for a tie-in of this lot. We did a full survey, a full topography of this whole area into here, which spot shots, located everything on here, which is a result of a full survey, and that's why my plan is stamped as a registered land surveyor.
Did you get that email,
Here it is here. yeah.
Chairman?
Yeah.
I can't find it on my,
You can zoom in on it, I think.
I just thought you'd want to read that, that's all.
Planning Board would like to thank the Zoning Board of Appeals for the opportunity to comment on the petitions before you. Planning Board has specific concerns on one petition before you, the one on Dorsey Street. The applicant has applied for relief to construct a single-family home within the FPWPD on Dorsey Street. The board's concerns, which would be the Planning Board, are that the combined lots shown on the plan cross over a paper road private way. The board is not sure that you can obstruct a private paper way without abandoning the way. The other concern is that the lot being considered is on a portion of Dorsey Street that the board thinks is part of the Century Estates subdivision and therefore not yet accepted as a public way. This would mean that the home would have no frontage on a public way. The board asks that you consider these issues as you deliberate your finding. I don't know if you have any comment on that, Mr. Garvey?
As far as Chamberlain Street goes, we are not constructing on Chamberlain Street, but under land court instructions, he owns this lot, he has a fee to the center line, he owns these two lots, he has a fee to the center line with the rights of others to pass and repass. However, there is no one really to pass because the other end is developed. So I don't know what their concern is, but I'm sure you're aware of the land court instructions as far as the fee to center line of road on a private road. And as far as Dorsey Street has been paved. There are 10 or 15 houses that have been built on Dorsey Street.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he's talking about. Every house has been built. I think I showed you a picture of all those houses there, so.
Well, I drove down there the other day. There was a sign up there that said private way. I think that was Dorsey Street when I took, there's a sign, you go a little down Dorsey Street and it says private.
Well, yeah, it would be, I believe the road may have, the improvements of the road were done by Richard Rosen, in which these people still had a fee in the road. It's certainly passable, whether it's public or private, for a building permit. You can build on a private way.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
I just want to quickly add, did they really, I missed something, they explain where all this water's gonna go? And they build up and they bring their house up, this water's just all gonna get grabbed by a couple of drains that are in the street and it's gonna, so that's how it's all gonna work?
That's what I heard. Right?
Yeah.
And also, it's an upland too, so it's above.
I live there, it's just, if you see
Yeah.
it, it doesn't make any sense, a house goes behind a house, between another house. and they come
Sir.
into it.
Stay up there if you're gonna.
So it's hard to understand that they're gonna pop this house in there, bring this off the side road, pop it in, wetlands are right here. They're only take, well, this is only a little bit of part of the wetlands, we're gonna be over here. And all this water's there, and they're gonna pop this house here in between a house and a house. And we have a lot of problems up there with the water. I mean, we live with it, but now, and there was another house just built on the other side of this property, on this side. Same thing happened. A house was built between a house and a house, same people, same property, same deal, come off, it was Murphy, onto this thing. It's water issues, that's what we're worried about. Really, it's water. It's like, I'm not saying you can't, I'm not talking about, well, this hasn't Century Estates. Why are we bringing Century Estates into it? It has nothing to do with it. This is a water issue, in that whole area. And popping a house in there, you're just gonna add more issues. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. Sorry.
Do you want to address that, Carol, at all, or?
We're not increasing runoff, we're building a house on 40,000 square feet of property. These houses out here are on 10,000. We're not going to be increasing runoff from this property. And both the Conservation Commission and DEP agreed with us. So.
They agreed with you that?
Pardon me?
They agreed with you that there would be no runoff?
Yeah, they agreed with us. I enclosed a copy of the
Conservation Commission order conditions.
Of the order conditions, and you'll see that stormwater prevention was addressed. On the final signature page.
Anything else? Yeah. Within the Conservation Commission. Any questions?
I would just say that I think I know I'm not voting on this, but the environmental impact statement shouldn't be waived. I think that's something that shouldn't be waived, so, if this does get approved. So, we all know about that area. We've had people in front of us many times, and they seem to be building more in there, and it was wetlands. You're always gonna have water problems there, and you're just adding to it, so, I mean, I wouldn't waive it if it did go through, so.
Yep.
I have a question. Why would you want a waiver of the environmental impact statement? I just wanted to ask that question.
It's normally what we would do when we file with the Conservation Commission. It explains it in the bylaw of what the procedure is. So we went to the Conservation Commission first.
In lieu of?
In lieu of that. If the board wants that, we can provide that.
Is that something the board wants?
People have brought up not just the drainage issue, but trees and wildlife out there, and just, it seemed like in this particular instance, it might be a good idea.
I think it will give us more information.
Yeah.
It might be part of our due diligence.
Right.
Is that something that you could agree to?
Pardon me?
Is that something you would agree to do, was provide us with an environmental impact statement?
Sure.
How long would that take you to do?
A month.
So if we continue this for a month or 2 months? Or
2 months.
2 months? Is that acceptable?
Question over there?
Yes, sir.
Alex Haggerty, 515 Summer Street. I live on a property on Summer Street that abuts wetlands myself, so I understand the whole issue about water being on your property or going into your basement. They told us when the dog park went in that no water was going to be coming into our basement. As soon as the dog park came in, well, I've been there, born and raised in Abington, in that house, never had any water issues, and as soon as that dog park went in, they said they had that buffer, we had water in our basement. And I think we also need to keep in mind to preserving our wetlands. I think building on wetlands is only gonna excel the issue of water issues in these neighborhoods. And number two, this also has to do with water. Abington has a water moratorium, and we really don't have the water to be building anything new right now in town. So the fact that we're using, that this is even being proposed right now is kind of, it's too much. We're not there yet. We don't have the water to even build on this property. Forget about you actually can't forget about the wetlands issue. I think, just as my recommendation as a resident, I would hold off and put off from building on wetlands, and especially when we don't have the water to go into the house. And as for stormwater, we have issues on that as well, so not sure where that's coming from. because we're trying to get that from the state right now, but that's my opinion.
Thank you. All right, so I guess we'll continue this. You'll provide us with an environmental impact statement? And
Yeah, well, I want to give you, I don't want to just walk in with it, I want to have you.
Right, exactly, yes, I understand. So we'll continue it.
Surprise you.
Can we make sure?
You have to sign,
Will other people get to see that before the meeting?
it's public record, so yeah, once we get it, yeah, if you want to come down and take a look at it, you can, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the person who didn't get notified, can we make sure he gets notified?
Oh, he's here right now, so. You're gonna get notified right now, right? So what's the December meeting? Is it the 9th? And Rob, you'll have to sign it.
The 9th.
December 9th, okay, will be the next meeting, 7:05. So again, you folks who live in the neighborhood, you're not gonna get any in the mail letting you know about this, so December 9th is the meeting, okay? So, do we have a motion to continue this to December 9th?
I'll make a motion to continue this until December 9th, 7 o'clock.
7:05.
7:05, excuse me.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you all for coming.
No.
Can I ask a sidebar question? You had mentioned regardless of what we decide, they have to go through to get a building permit, they have to, in order to get water, they have to go through the permitting process. So that's kind of a non-issue.
Even if we approve it, yeah, it doesn't go.
But the other issue was for drainage plans. You had mentioned something that there's a specific drainage plan process, and I don't understand.
Okay, we have another,
I'm gonna look a little more into it.
Another-
Have some of those plans.
Okay.
Usually with the subdivision, they have drainage plans.
Right.
Single family home, not so.
This is sort of lighten up everybody for an existing problem.
Moving on.
Take care, sir.
Do you sign this? Yes. Okay. Will you sign the other one, or will?
Yep.
I didn't know since you weren't a voting member.
Why don't we have Rick sign?
Which one is that?
The other continuance.
The first one or the second? First. Yeah, I can sign it right now. She has it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't remember.
Can't wait till after.
I signed some in your absence. I didn't realize how much you had to do outside this. I mean, it's not that much. It's like, I was surprised.
All right, next on the agenda, Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 14th, 2021, at 7:10 PM at the Abington Town offices, 500 Glenwood's Way, Abington, on the petition of Nancy and Daniel Craven, 20 Crossman Circle, Abington, for a special permit under 175-32-I to legalize in-law apartment for new owners at 20 Crossman Circle. The property is located on Assessors Map 13, Lot 20, in the R40 zone. R. Andrew Burbine, Chairman, Zoning Board of Appeals. Are you the applicants? Okay, do you mind stepping up and introducing yourselves?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Craven. This is my wife Nancy.
Who are you?
We purchased the property at 20 Crossman Circle in July. And at the time, we were given a letter that was from the Zoning Board of Appeals on October 18, 2016, that approved of an in-law apartment at 20 Crossman Circle. We purchased the house thinking that it was a legal in-law apartment, and now we find that it has to be approved because this letter that was sent out in October of 2016 can only be transferred to family members. It can't be transferred to a new owner. So we are here to appeal for this request to make our in-law apartment legal too.
Okay.
We have all the paperwork that shows all the city departments that signed off on it back in 2016. And we're hoping that you'll approve it again.
And who's living at the house? You and your
Daughter.
daughter? Okay. And you're,
son-in-law.
and you're in the in-law and they're in the main portion of the house?
Yes, yep.
Any questions?
Everything was, did you say it was existing?
Yes.
Okay, was it existing?
Yeah, it's existing in-law that they have to get approval
Okay,
for.
yep,
because they're
thank you.
New owners. So this will only last as long as you folks own the house. Same thing will happen to whoever buys the house after you.
And we will tell them.
Sorry. And how'd you find out?
We got a letter from the town.
Okay.
A very nice letter.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
We have a motion?
Well, is anyone?
Oh, I'm sorry, anybody in the audience who has any issues on this?
This has been great, thank you.
If not, we'll bring it back to the board, and thank you for that. Dave, oh, sorry. You have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion on the petition of Nancy and Daniel Craven, 20 Crossman Circle, Abington, for a special permit under section 175-32I to legalize an in-law apartment for the new owners at 20 Crossman Circle. The property is located on Assessors Map 13, Lot 20, in the R40 zone.
Seconded?
Second, motion and a second, any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Good to go.
Thank you.
You'll get something from the building
Go have
department.
some
Paperwork. We should have done
Just so you know, folks, hold on, just so you know,
Yeah.
I think every year, something from the building department will be sent to you, and you have to sign an affidavit saying that it's still just family-owned, and the two of you and your daughter are living there, so.
Yeah, we should have done you first. You wouldn't sit through it. Sorry. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Okay, next on the agenda, the Town of Abington Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 14th, 2021, at 7:15 PM at the Abington Town Offices, 500 Glenwood Way, Abington, on the petition of Stacy Smith, 78 Doris Drive, Abington, to appeal the zoning enforcement agent's decision for violations under 175-21D, 175-21H, 2, 3, and 5, and 175-47 for uses related to a commercial business at 78 Doris Drive. The property is located on Assessors Map 4, Lot 171, in the R30 zone. There is Stacy Smith here. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You can go ahead.
Okay, start.
Mhm.
It's my first time here.
Name and
So,
address.
My name is Stacy Smith. I live at 78 Doris Drive. I
Thank
own
you.
Pick a Party Place and the musical Bubble Barge, which you've probably seen driving around town. I don't know where to go from there. I've been in the neighborhood for 6 years. I've had my business license at that address that was approved to have it there. I've had no problems from anyone. The musical Bubble Barge started when COVID hit because I had lost all my events were canceled. And I started jumping in on the parades that were going around town with the police and the fire department. And I did it for free for about a week to keep myself busy. And it became so popular on Facebook that I was going around the state, and gas and bubbles were costing a fortune. So I started charging a nominal fee, and then it just grew from there. And then I started doing little events for my neighborhood, of which half of my neighborhood is here. And I was told that for the most part, it's usually the people that want to complain come to these meetings, but these are all my supporters that are here. When we were going around the neighborhood, we were doing free birthday parties, free ice cream parties, free cotton candy parties, Easter, put Santa on board, and we were just keeping the kids in the neighborhood, you know, entertained. I do have a persnickety neighbor, and this had gone so long, we have a few abutters. that were here but then had to leave because they go to work early, that have had problems with our neighbor, and we just try to avoid conflict. If you've ever dealt with a persnickety neighbor, you know, the more you talk, the bigger the problem becomes. So from the moment I backed into my driveway the day I moved into my house, he's called the police on me for hitting my own railroad tie, for snow blowing my driveway, and the wind blew the other direction and it got into his yard, and I called the police. My dog barked, I called the police. I had a party, you know, for my birthday, I called the police, but not just me, for everybody. And I go to him all the time and I say, come to the parties, talk to me. Why would you call the police? What's the difference between you mowing your lawn and your clippings getting onto my mulch? I clean it up and we go on. What's the difference between that and snow? So it doesn't make sense. And he'll call to borrow equipment from me, and I give it to him, and I say, well, how do you think this is going to impact you down the road if this is the way you're going to act with your neighbors? And he always responds with, you know, I'm just kidding with you, I love you. I said, this is not showing that you love somebody. You know, this is really it doesn't make sense the way you're acting. And I even asked him as this went by, and I have texts from him. I said, how do we just resolve this? This just doesn't make sense. We are this great neighborhood. This doesn't make sense. You know, you're friends with me one day and borrowing equipment from me and then doing something like this. He goes, I'm going to write an email to Marion Wong right now in front of you. This is done. You know, I can't believe that I let it go this far. It's all because of another neighbor that got into my ear. So I called Marion a week later and I said, I heard that you got a letter. He goes, I never received anything. So I texted him and I said, she never got anything. I'm not going to call you I'm not going to say it, a liar. But she never got anything. Stacy, once it's done, the cat's out of the bag, we can't go any further with this, you're gonna have to, you know, pay the pipe, or whatever he had said. And then sent terrible texts after that, these raving, not making sense texts. So I've done more for my community than most, and for him. And it's very difficult to just live a life. And I've worked so hard on my home and my business, and I give so much to the community. Just want to be able to back my barge into my driveway, not even in my driveway, behind my driveway, next to my garage. You can barely see it. And end my day. Ask me questions, because I don't know what else to say.
Well, the reason we're here is because you're appealing the
right.
violation that
the bylaws.
The zoning enforcement officer.
Right. I don't take up more than 25% of my property with my business.
Are you parking a registered trailer at the property?
Everything's registered.
But it's a registered trailer?
It's registered.
A separate registered trailer?
The barge?
Well, I guess, yeah.
It's all registered.
But it's...
plate and it's registered.
So that's in violation of the bylaw?
How can you, if you look at all the pictures there.
But those folks aren't here in front of us. You are, and there's a violation that was issued by the zoning enforcement officer.
So
All we're looking at, excuse me for one sec, all we're looking at is your particular case.
Right.
So if the zoning enforcement officer finds that you're violating the bylaw, we're here to determine whether or not we think that's happening as well. So if you're parking a trailer there in violation of the bylaw, that's a violation of the bylaw.
How do you have a trailer that's not registered? How can anyone have a trailer that's not registered?
The bylaw states
How can anyone have a trailer that's
it's
not?
not a permissible use to have a trailer.
It's not a what?
A permissible use to have, I think you realize this because you've gotten this letter from her, so I'm kind of
I
just.
didn't understand it. When I asked Marion to explain it to me, it was not, she said it wasn't her job to explain it to me. So I wasn't getting a lot of help from anyone when it came to explaining what it meant, because I don't understand how you have any vehicle or trailer that's not registered. How do you not Don't you have to register trailers?
Open lot storage of registered transfer of trailers. Open lot storage of registered trucks and trailers used for temporary storage, and open lot storage of goods.
I don't
and
store
goods.
anything in it.
Well, but the bottom line is it's a trailer that you're using for a business
Right.
that is in violation of the bylaw, to have it at your property,
But
in that zone.
Maybe help me understand. I don't understand. I don't understand it. You maybe.
I think the layman term for it, you're not allowed to have a trailer on your property for business purposes. To
Commercial.
store it there, commercial, excuse me. So like, if that was just your trailer to go, take stuff to the dump,
Or a camping trailer?
camping trailer, that would be permitted, because it's a private use, private property situation. Yours is for a business. So you're storing your business equipment on your personal property. That's where the bylaw, the zoning enforcement. I'm not,
But again,
We're not open up to,
right, and we're not.
we're just trying to say what the law states, not necessarily.
yeah, the floor isn't open though, the floor isn't open though, please.
So, yeah, it just comes down to that it's a business trailer on your private property for storage.
Which is
Not that it's a regular
Which is not
trailer.
allowed in that, in the zone that you're
I'm
living in.
not storing.
It doesn't
It's
matter.
parked.
You park it there at night, so
Yeah.
that's the storage part of it.
Oh, I'm storing it at my house.
Yeah, like you're keeping it at your house. So like, you don't keep it someplace else and go pick it up. Like you go to your house and take it out from there to use it. That's what the bylaw states.
You're running a business out of it, out of the area. and-
But if I was I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no, great.
If I was a carpenter, electrician, or plumber, I would permit it.
If you had a truck, this is not a truck, this is a
It's a
trailer.
trailer,
It's a
work
separate
trailer.
trailer.
It's almost, it's a commercial trailer, correct?
Yeah.
No, it's not commercial,
It's not a commercial
Yes, it
trailer?
is, it's a bit, you're using it for a
but
business.
it's not commercial.
Well,
Do you have commercial plates?
That's a separate issue.
It was something that we just turned into.
I understand.
Yeah.
but
It's like a transport trailer.
Yeah. It's an open, there's pictures there.
I've seen the pictures.
You'll have your chance.
So, but it's not registered commercially?
No.
Okay. I mean, I think that.
But the size of it could be,
It's 10 feet, 6 by 10,
it's 10 feet?
6 by 10.
Yeah.
And it's parked very hidden.
Yeah, we saw the pictures of
And
it.
I'd be happy to put up fencing. I mean, I have,
So you did remove all the rest of the stuff, correct?
yeah, and I didn't mind that. It looks better. That was doable. I have another space that I rent in Pembroke that I put the storage container and the trailer, and I had a dump tank, and that's
But
all.
unfortunately, someone called on you, and,
Right.
Right,
and
yeah.
the enforcement officer, I don't understand why she didn't explain it to you, but she has a right to, if you violate the.
She has to, I mean,
She has to, right.
she's the enforcement officer. If
Yeah.
she thinks there's a violation of a zoning bylaw, then she has to cite you. I think, did she try to talk to you first? I would imagine she did, or?
She was going through surgery. I mean, I got a whole earful of,
But-
which I was very patient to listen to, but
But the bottom line is, she
So
found you
did
in
any
violation
help.
of she found you in violation of the bylaw, and now you've appealed it to us to ask us to basically say you're not in violation of the bylaw.
I'd like to be able to come home at the end of the day and just park it in the back of.
But that's
I was-
not what,
From what I was reading, it just seemed so vague. Anything that was parked behind the house line was permissible. Maybe I misunderstood, but that's what I was trying to figure out, because I wasn't getting a lot of answers. And it's parked way behind the house line and behind a fence, and I even said I'll put up a fence so that nobody even has to look at it. You know, and I've been nothing but gracious and generous, and that barge has just really helped my community tremendously.
can you find someplace else to
It's just, it's
park
too
it?
tall to fit into anything. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And even if I can get it extended to New Year's Day, when I'm finished, I'm buying a bus. I'm buying a cut-off bus,
Are you parking it out front of the house?
and I'm parking it in the side.
Oh,
So then it's not a trailer anymore, then it's just one of those cut-off buses, that, because it's been awesome, it's paid my bills, I lost everything.
If you
And I didn't-
park the bus there and your neighbor calls and she
But
comes
then
down
what
and
would
doesn't
be the
find that you're
difference
violating, you don't
between-
have to worry about it at that point.
I
But
didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I said, if you buy a bus and you're parking it there and your neighbor calls and
But what would be
zoning
between the
enforcement
difference
officer
of-
goes down and finds that you're not in violation, then you don't have to worry about it. But
What
what
would
we're
be-
here tonight for is the fact that you
Yeah.
Right.
were
That she
found in
did.
What
violation.
would be the difference between the bus then?
It doesn't matter, she
No, no,
came out. and-
Just a question.
Yeah.
Just, what would be the difference between the bus then and a carpenter's truck or a,
I don't know.
I don't know, we would have to look it up, but.
I mean, those are
But that's not what
grandfathered
we're here
in
for
since
tonight.
Right.
1958.
Well, I think a truck and a trailer is different. I mean, I think we'd have to look for a bus. I mean, I think that's completely,
But that's
like-
not here and there, that's not what we're here for, and that's
If you
what.
can extend this through the end of December, and then I'll dismantle the thing. I will dismantle, you know, it's gotten me this far, it's paying my bills, I don't know where to store it, and it's just speakers and bubble, and it's just expensive equipment, and I can't find, people are being wonderful around Abington and surrounding towns saying, Regal Motors, park, you know, over here, my neighbors, park it over here, you know, everyone's.
Parking at your neighbors, you're gonna run into the same problem.
Yeah,
so.
they reported too.
But, you know, people in Abington have been wonderful.
Yeah.
The problem is it's not in a secure, I have cameras all around, you know, to keep it safe. And, you know, just to the end of the year, to New Year's, would be gracious and generous. And
And
then
what
I could deal with the bus.
what were
And a
you
bus
told?
would be safe.
What were you told by the enforcement officer? What was the fine?
Did she tell you to remove it immediately?
I was getting fines. And then Scott was nice enough to stretch this and tell me how to, I needed to get to December.
I thought you got it extended to like September 22nd at first. Is that what I'm reading here? Or sometime late September, I'll have to find it.
All right, let me see if anybody else has anything to say. Okay. Does anybody else want to speak on this, for or against? Yes, sir.
Well, Curran, 91 Linden Street, trustee. I'm actually one of the complaints. I talked to Ms. Smith about moving the trailer to the front of our house. It was right on top of a fire hydrant. And it was a concern for me. It was a safety concern, a health concern, a public life safety concern. She didn't want to comply. Her son's a firefighter. He said, it's fine the way it is. I don't mind giving her to the end of December. I tried to work with her the first time. I'll do it the second time. But enough is enough. Two trailers, a dunk tank, tables. It shouldn't be run out of that neighborhood. And I have pictures that I'd like to leave with you guys.
Sure.
And I wouldn't mind working with her.
May I come back up there?
You can, after other people get a chance to. Are you done, Bob, or?
I'm all set, thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say?
I was initially here for this. So B. Crayson, 147 Green Street. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the neighborhood, the subdivision over there off of Green Street. It's a bunch of originally houses, ranches built for military back in the 1950s. If you peruse through the neighborhood now, you will find a combination of build-ups and some, you know, additions to these houses. There's a lot of congestion in the neighborhood. There's one particular street, on my street, we had a fire recently at the end. The fire department couldn't get down the street because of parking. A lot of contractors parked their work vehicles on the street, and the fire department had a lot of issues. When I originally heard about Stacy's, you know, dilemma, there's two things that need to be, I feel, need to be considered here. One, what prompted this whole situation, and this is a disgruntled petty neighbor. What she has done for the neighborhood with this business. And then I agree, some concerns about, you know, the whatever, a lot of equipment, which she's, you know, willing to work with and put away in storage, whatever. But in general, just what she has done with this business and everything like that, a lot of people have come forward and told her they would be willing to help her store things, move things, whatnot, just because she needs that much. But that, the complaint had to do with more of a disgruntled, more of a petty little thing, like, if you go through this neighborhood, and this is the second part that's, to me, has a very biased, unfair element to this, is that there are multiple violations of whatever she just got violated for. As far as, this is a trailer. Technically, she's using it for business. She could say she's not. It's a little pickup thing. You could literally use it to hook up to your truck and transport a lawnmower around. And if you go through this neighborhood, you will find those little trailers like this that she has, probably close to 10 of them, parked in these driveways. So to say that she can't, because she's putting some decorations on it and making the neighborhood happy and bringing joy to the kids. I mean, this is a very heavily populated neighborhood with kids. To say that that's not okay, but a guy who's transporting his lawnmower, that's okay for him to park on his driveway. That there's some kind of, that has to be
Just interrupt you a second. I'm not sure anybody's saying that's okay either, but the only thing that's in front of us tonight is this.
Right.
So if somebody else came in front of us with a similar complaint, then we'd have to hear that one too.
Right, my point is just in this neighborhood, there's a lot of, due to the congestion, due to a lot of, these houses were not meant to hold these. People are trying to make a business, trying to make a living. The zoning board should factor these things in and perhaps make, you know, some leeway for these type of situations where people are trying to run a business to support themselves, especially in these times, and that's kind of what happened. But it is a lot of contractors there. There's a boat that's bigger than a house right on Olson, not to throw anybody under the boat, but I mean, it's bigger than the house. I'm not joking. Drive by Green, so you can see it from probably.
We saw the
across
pictures.
Longmont. Yeah. So to me, it's like, I understand, obviously, she came out, that lady, to do her job. She saw a violation. I think the it's apples and oranges. Apples and oranges. She's worth giving some room, some leeway, you know. She's a great asset to the neighborhood, and, you know, she's willing to work with all individuals, so, and this was a very, and we're frankly very upset with this neighbor. But, you know, if there's an issue to be had, obviously, but I just, we're asking for fairness and some kind of leeway, considering this is 2021. This is a neighborhood that is very thickly settled, overpopulated. People are, there's probably too many people living in these houses, you know, I'm just saying. There's a lot of elements to consider here. This isn't just a simple, you know, violation. These tractors are everywhere that she has in our neighborhood. The fact that she's bringing joy with this particular one is a major element in, or should be rather, not that I'm trying to force, you know, but, you know,
Thank you.
so thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just on what she said, she's right, it's congested, so business shouldn't be in there. You know, they got enough cars, we gotta plow the streets, we don't need businesses in the neighborhood. You made a good point. She is a nice person. I talked to Mrs. Smith, I tried to resolve it. I said, would you mind moving it around the corner? It's right in front of the fire hydrant. You can't
Yeah,
get
I saw
to, I
that.
can't get to my house. If that burns, I'm in trouble. She goes, no, I'm not gonna do that. My son's a firefighter. I'm fine with it. And unfortunately, I had to go to the town to try to resolve this. And that's why we're here. I don't know if it's because our other neighbor called, but I did. And that's why we're here.
Okay. So let me ask you again, you said you'd be willing to wait until December to
I
have something
would, yeah, I
happen?
would be.
January, so end
The end of December.
end of the year.
I would be.
Well, the second is what I finished.
All right, anybody else have anything else to say?
I do.
Okay.
No. Oh,
I just want want to add one thing and
Yep.
hopefully not get myself in any type of trouble. I thought about bringing bubbles, but I mixed that at home. I want to back up everything my neighbor B said. I'm Danny Light. I live at 13 Clapp Street in Abington. And I also would like to just add to what B said. Stacy Smith has been the heartbeat of our neighborhood through a very difficult time for our children, for the adults. You know, you're never prepared to deal with a pandemic, but then essentially you're closing your children up in home. They're not seeing any of their friends. They're not going to school. And before this bubble barge even started, when your trash company was on strike, Stacy Smith used that very trailer to collect all of the trash that was rotting on the curb of Clapp Street, of Rice Street, multiple trips. She was picking up all of the trash that your contracted company refused to pick up. Then it became the bubble barge. And our children had something, just a little teeny bit of happiness coming around the corner with music and bubbles. And just for a minute, they were able to forget about the things that were occurring in their world that was extremely frightening to them. I have never known Stacy to be an uncompassionate person, an uncooperative person, an unprofessional person. Maybe she was parked by the hydrant, but I have a very hard time believing it was for more than 42 seconds. She's just not that person. So I guess I'm appealing to the board to just have a little bit of compassion and consideration and give her to the first of the year to rectify the situation. And understand that she's done a lot for this community, not just our neighborhood. She's worked at the Jeff Coombs Memorial Race, she's shown up for all of the events for the schools, and a lot of times on her own time and her own dime. And I just feel there should be some sort of fairness in regards to considering that when you're thinking about giving her this extra time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have? Yes, sir?
Hi, my name is Jason Henningsen. I'm at 115 Green Street. I've lived in the neighborhood for 11 years now with my wife and our daughter, who is 9. I would just add my 2 cents, the fact that in this time with a pandemic, Stacy's done a lot for our neighborhood and brought a lot of joy. And the fact that we have to realize this is 2021. There is a pandemic. People are working inside their homes now. There is no longer the idea of going to work. My wife, for 16 years, was driving to Boston to work at Wentworth Institute of Technology. In the course of COVID, her job came inside our house. So what makes the difference now of having a vehicle that's from your business is in front of your house or in your driveway? Most people now are running their businesses out from inside their house. I don't understand why all of a sudden, you know, in the course of the time that since this matter has happened, I can tell you for a fact, the vehicle is not near a fire hydrant. Pieces of her equipment are no longer by the hydrant. I walk that neighborhood every single night, the whole block. I start from Green, I go down to Clapp, up Isabel, and down Martin. I notice on several streets, many businesses that are running inside their house. Vehicles, construction trucks are outside their yard, outside of their property. There is a tree service on Martin. Every morning, their vehicles are coming out and causing a blockage of that street. Yet, somebody who has a barge, a trailer even, is the only one who's getting complained about. The fact that every night I walk that neighborhood. Now, I don't know how much space there is supposed to be around a hydrant. I can tell you this much. Every night I go by there, there's nothing within a 6 feet radius, 6 to 10 feet radius of that hydrant that's on the corner of her house. Because she's on that end of that street. There's nothing blocking that hydrant at all. So she has done more than anything, not just for the services for her, for the neighborhood and for the community. She is following what she's been asked to do something, she is doing it. So I would hope that the board would consider this and look at the situation, because it's, you know, the fact that a neighbor is getting harassed by 1 or 2 people, when the fact that the majority of the neighborhood is pro her. It just seems like, questionable, and it's just, it's pretty sad to see somebody who's done so much for our community is getting such disrespect from 1 or 2 individuals, yet is doing her best to make things work. Thank you.
Do you mind if I just get up and clarify before I want to speak? Bob, I didn't know your name. Can I just clarify?
Sure.
So when Bob came up to me and asked me to move the trailer, I said, I just needed to wait a few days because I need my son to come help me move it. We moved it, and he says, this is great. So we moved it about 5 feet away from it, and he goes, you just need this clearance. Police came by, cleared it. Scott came by, okay, everything is good. But he kept coming to me and saying, I don't know who that I'm messing with. And I was like, what is that? And then he kept coming by my house with his kid in the car and harassing me. And I said, I've moved it. Everyone said it was fine, that it was there. So, and it's not the barge. This is another trailer that's on the side. It has nothing to do with so if the barge is good, you don't care about the barge. That's not the barge.
Well, she actually cited you for both trailers, so.
Me?
No, not
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Curran.
So
The zoning enforcement officer said, just hold on a second.
So that has
Just
nothing.
Hold on a second. So there's
Oh.
actually 2 trailers that she says should not be there. One that's on
Right.
like a makeshift
But
driveway
that's
on
not a work
Isabel,
vehicle.
and one that's on, and then the bubble barge
Right.
that's in your driveway.
Right.
So those are 2 that
So
she
that-
found
that-
you in violation of.
But it's, I bumped my property at least 15 feet, I don't know the exact measurement, it's bumped in. I had them, when they put the fence up, made sure to bump it, because everybody else has bumped it in the front of their, she cited that you're not allowed to have 2 driveways.
No, you're
But-
not, according to zoning
But
bylaw, you're not.
according to zoning, she's the one who told me that because I'm on a corner lot, I have 2 fronts and 2 backs.
That's for setbacks, and that's not for driveways, so.
But it's not a driveway, but my neighbor.
I'm just telling, this is what she cited.
I don't know. My neighbor next to me has 2 driveways. 3 other people in my neighborhood on my block have 2 driveways in their
But again,
front.
those folks aren't here in front of us with a violation, you are, so.
So that was, I just didn't, like everyone else,
So let me,
but that's not a work
let me
vehicle.
suggest something, okay?
To be
Maybe we
quiet?
can- No, but I think Mr. Curran said he'd be fine with waiting till December 31st.
But I don't have to move that trailer, though. That's way off now, it's way back
That's-
enough, right?
that's one of-
CMR says 10 feet, and you're on town property where that other trailer is. So you're gonna move.
That's,
both.
that's the, that's the concern.
How-
CMR 5.00 is 10 feet,
10 feet from where?
the fire hydrant.
Oh, more than 10 feet away.
And that's town property, you can't have that trailer there.
That could conceivably be town property that trailer is sitting on, which is why
My
I think,
property Oh, how do I find out then?
well, I think the zoning enforcement officer suggested you have a plot plan or a
I
survey
don't
done to determine whether or not that's the case. I think that was in the letter she
So
sent
how
you.
far can my fence line come out? I can bump my fence out more and utilize it for my property?
Well, you gotta make sure that you're not using the town property to park your trailer.
From that fire hydrant?
I'm not gonna advise you on your
Right.
setbacks, but right now, there's 2 violations. There's one on Isabel Street, which is that small trailer, and then there's the bubble machine that's in the regular driveway. She cited you on both of those.
Okay, but I want to make it clear that I was never rude to you. I just said and every.
So can I go back to my point?
I never am not rude.
Can I go back to my point? Okay, I think there's 2 things we can do as a board. We can either make a decision tonight whether or not we uphold the zoning enforcement officer's letter.
Mhm.
That takes a unanimous vote to undo that. So all 3 of us would have to say, you're not in violation for that to happen. Second thing I think we could do is continue this until our January meeting. And if, at that point in time, everything is cleared up, then I think things you'll be in a better place at that point in time. And I don't have a problem doing that only because Mr. Curran was kind enough to say he'd wait until then, so.
Could I ask a couple of
Sure,
questions
yeah.
to make sure I get it straight? What is on your property right now? Just the bubble machine, or is the other trailer there as well?
The other trailer's
I
on
went by
that
yesterday.
place that I bumped the,
Okay, and then
specifically put it there.
the dunk tank is in Pembroke and it's,
That's in Pembroke, the storage container in Pembroke, most of my equipment moved to Pembroke. I have no problem. It'll behoove me to have this piece of equipment, which is too expensive. There's no place to store it inside, and nor do I want to come at the end of the day. Like, I work really late, and then I gotta drive somewhere else, park it, drive home, when I just see with so many other people in my neighborhood coming home at the end of the day, and it's a long day.
so can the other, and you said that the bubble machine was too tall to be.
It's not the machine, it's a barge.
Oh, yeah, I saw the structure, but the other trailer, could that be parked in Pembroke too, or would that?
That I was digging my heels in, because it's not a work vehicle. Like everybody else has all this camping stuff on corners of their,
Right,
you
well,
know
it's-
what I mean?
But
And trailers,
the only-
trailers, not campers.
The only reason she cited you for a violation is because she's considering that a second driveway. If you put that in your driveway, then you're fine. In the paved driveway, then you're fine.
It's a second driveway, but people are parking it on their grass.
That's, we're
I
not
know,
talking
I
about other
know.
people, we're talking about what you're here for, and
If I
that's
would've
what she,
just parked it on my
that's what
grass, it
she's.
wouldn't have been a driveway. It's just a stone there instead.
Well,
For her purposes though, for the zoning enforcement though, it appears to be a driveway.
right.
I just put rocks there because I didn't want to mow underneath it. Lazy. That was it.
So, do you want to agree to continue this till
Please.
January? And at that point in time, we'll make a
Work
decision,
together
we're gonna
with
make a
the
decision
neighbors?
one way or the other if you guys are.
Yes.
That's fine. Are we having
What
board discussion
constitutes a
or
driveway?
continue?
Yeah, we can, go ahead.
Oh, so it was constitutes a driveway.
You have to look that up. I can't
Yeah,
advise you as
we
to
weren't
what
even
those-
No, but
focused.
she violated her for that,
Yeah.
because she considered it a second driveway.
Right, so I
I
think,
can tell you right now, that does not, where she parks it does not.
I went by it
look like a
yesterday, I
driveway.
saw it, I went by it yesterday.
It looks,
So, are you all set now, are you done?
me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have glasses on, I can't see.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm gonna close it to the public and bring it back to the board for discussion at this point. Yes, sir.
She does appear to be in violation of at least the bubble machine. The other one is sort of something she would have to follow up on with this, I don't know who in the town, who could determine what the driveway is for her, or where her property line ends and the city property
Well,
begins.
she'd have to do that.
Right,
She'd have to have a survey done to determine where her lot line is.
So can we move to continue this until January and
We
add some
closed it.
advisories?
Close. Oh,
I
did you?
I didn't see it, Alex.
Oh,
Briefly, please.
Regarding Chapter 175, Section 21D, Stacy's professional business is not taking up more than 25% of the floor area of the residence, which is allowed in R30. That's what the barge is of in the driveway. So I'm not really sure where the zoning officer came up with that. But I also think that this is, as a selectman, I definitely do think that looking at our bylaws, and the last time that they were updated, our zoning bylaws, says we've got some work to do. We have to update things. We have to update our zoning bylaws to match with the culture that we're living in. You know, and I don't, it troubles me that, I mean, I understand that different businesses are grandfathered into be able to be on someone's property. But, you know, not everyone's a carpenter, a tree removal anymore these days. And with all due respect, those fields are also predominantly male. And so, I mean, I understand the difference, you know, about the zoning bylaws, but I mean, I think penalizing someone for starting up a business here in Abington when we have so little few, and harping on someone for having their business on their property. And I went by this morning before I went to work, and the barge is way at the end of the driveway. What's the difference between that barge being at the end of the driveway and someone having a trailer that you put leaves on to bring down to the compost site? There's no difference. There's absolutely no difference. And I agree pushing this off to January, but I also would encourage a unanimous to revoke the zoning officer's decision. I just, it'd be a shame to lose a business like this in town. I really do, and especially, you know, how much it involved, and she's involved with the community. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone went to, you know, the Jeff Coombs Memorial Road Race, you know, last month, but, you know, she had her barge there and all the kids hanging around. And it's proud to say that's an Abington business.
I think it's a great thing it's an
Yeah,
Abington business.
absolutely.
But you still, in a couple of things. Number one, and I think I've explained this to you.
Yes.
We do not write the zoning bylaws.
Oh, correct, and that's why I said that the selectmen need to review
Selectmen have
this.
some work to do, the planning board have some work to do. I've tried to do it, believe me.
Oh, I believe
Very far. And and it's not the first time, the zoning bylaws are looked at sporadically in certain areas every year. We have zoning bylaw changes, Rich, correct me if I'm
Yes,
wrong.
and
Every year.
I'd like to say, yeah, every year.
Every
yeah.
year, but
For
what
other
I would like to
reasons,
see is a comprehensive, and I said it when I was on the board of selectmen,
Yeah.
is a comprehensive review of the zoning bylaws. I think that would be great, but that's not what we're here to do
Right.
tonight. We're
Yeah.
here to determine whether or not Stacy is in violation of the zoning bylaws that are currently in
And
effect.
not only that, we're lucky to have an enforcement officer.
Yeah,
You have to give her credit too.
yeah. It's
She's
not an
doing her
easy job.
job.
You know that. You had a board of health inspector who used to go out and do
Oh,
the
yeah.
same sort of thing, and it's not an easy job to do.
Oh, no,
It's
I
not.
absolutely
only
agree.
doing what the
But
bylaws
I'm
say.
pointing out here, there's the lack of consistency.
But
Because
she
even during,
responded to a complaint, Alex.
Yes.
She responded to a
Well,
complaint. She didn't go down
she-
there looking for it. She
well,
responded to a
exactly, but
complaint.
there have been other complaints where it should have been enforced.
I
There
think
should have been
that's- I
something
think
that
if you
should have
look-
been
I think if you look
enforced.
at
I'll
what-
call the town and make about 50 complaints.
Well, I'm not gonna argue that. That's up to you.
But that, and that's,
Let's see if they're
Let's go
enforced
there.
with the men.
Yeah.
All right, please,
Please.
really. This is being filmed. Let's be.
It's not even that, it's just, really. It has nothing to do with female, male.
oh, no,
Well, you
but
brought
I'm
it
talking
up.
about
You brought it up.
consistency.
You
We
brought it
should
up.
be
You brought
consistency,
it
and
up. You
unfortunately,
brought it up, Alex.
this,
You brought it up.
yes, I did bring it up, but also at the same time,
And
we
just
also
so-
have to
just
be consistent with
interrupt
our
you one more
enforcement.
time, the zoning enforcement officer is a female, so.
Yes.
Yeah,
That doesn't make a complaint.
that's, but I'm talking about the lack of consistency. People can be wrong. She was wrong.
Well, that's your opinion, number one, and I'm not sure there is a lack of
But
consistency.
he's trying
Yeah.
to tell you, what are you gonna do with that information? He just pointed out, based on his, that 25% she's not violating.
That's not the violation we're talking about.
Yes, that is one of the
That's
violations.
not the violation we're concerned with tonight. We're concerned with the 2 trailers. That's what we're concerned with.
Okay, but she's also using it for personal use, which people are allowed to do.
Not a trailer, and according to town council, this trailer falls within the zoning bylaw that it's not allowed in that particular place.
Yeah, I'm talking about the other one.
Yeah, right, but it's not the trailer, it's the second driveway. She's not entitled to a second driveway.
Okay.
Again, this is
Right.
not personal. I mean,
No,
this
it's
is.
not.
Oh, yeah,
we're
no,
doing
no,
it-
no.
We're all doing our job here. We're volunteers.
The
There's a person that, there's a
violation
person
of the
that,
second one is that there's a second driveway. As I said to her, if she puts that in her driveway, there's no violation.
Yeah.
She's using a second driveway.
But then again, I talk about consistency. People complaining about having
If you
people
have-
putting on
Excuse me for a
other.
second, but if you have a problem with how the zoning enforcement officer is enforcing things, then you need to bring that up with her, not with us. We're not here, we're not here to do that. We're here to determine whether or not this particular violation is warranted.
But
That's
this
what
is
we're here
also here for checks and balances too. She can make mistakes. People can make
Yes, I agree.
mistakes.
Yes, absolutely, yes, yeah.
And I, in my personal
I understand,
opinion,
but I
I
understand.
feel that this is a mistake.
Okay, thank you.
So that's all.
Look up to find out what constitutes a driveway.
I could Look in the zoning bylaws. Anything else? It's close to the floor now.
thank you. Close to the floor, loud and clear.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Rick, you want to speak?
Well, it does seem like under the current bylaws, that she has violated those without intention. And thank you for your community support, because very few people do that. You know, but the question for us then is, when do we choose to enforce it?
Right.
And if we choose to delay any action, any further fines or anything until January, that would accomplish what has been requested.
Right.
That seems reasonable to me.
I think it's reasonable as well.
My other question was, I mean, we'd have to look into it, but where it's not registered commercially, does that have any effect on the rules?
Well, you saw the thing, the note from town council, she thought it was.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that's like a.
Yeah, well,
something
that's
to
something
look
you can
into.
consider, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
that's-
and it does appear that she made some effort to modify what was going on from a violation that she noticed she received at the end of August. And it, you know, and she did a lot of things before the end of September, it sounds like. So we're left with these two remaining things.
Right.
So it seems like she's made progress, a little more time, again, seems reasonable to me.
I think so.
Yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we
Continue
Continue
the
this.
Continue the hearing.
continue the hearing until
What's that, January?
January.
13.
And that's okay with the two parties?
Okay.
Are we, since I'm still new to this, can we offer any, like, suggestions along the way? I mean, like, looking into where she can park that other trailer?
I think if she, well, again.
She'll have to
we
find,
can't- Yeah.
she'll have to take care of her situation.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not something we
But
can
the
have.
trailer won't be a thing. It'll be less.
Right. Well, and all,
So then I have to, but again, how do I, before I buy a bus, find out if having a bus?
I would find out by going to the enforcement officer and find out what you can do. Go to the building department and find out what you can have in that area. And
I
then,
think that's good advice.
yeah.
and do we have to vote on that, or are we all set
On the
on?
continuance we do.
Yeah.
So we have a motion?
I
made
move
the
that,
motion.
I move that we continue it until our January session, which is scheduled for
What was that? 13th, I think it was?
January 13th.
13th.
January 13th, okay?
A quick follow-up question, will that hold in abeyance any other enforcement actions until then? Okay.
All right, I'll second that motion.
And there's a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You sign this one.
Oh, we gotta sign this one?
You
Yes.
should, yeah.
Bill,
Stacy,
what, you have nothing else to do?
we got a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.